was the lunch? Great. You can see everybody's energized. All right, my name is Tesla. I'm a cybersecurity expert, entrepreneur, and as well as a software engineer. Been in the industry for more than a decade now. Well, today we're going to be looking at cybersecurity and AI. But before I get into that, we as Visitech, our goal is to empower Africa's future through technology. And the whole essence of us doing that is because we looked at how Africa's technology is and how the rate of development is. We always talk about development of technology, we always talk about the emerging technologies that we have to adopt to. But the question is, are we developing this stuff? There's been a lot of talks. But the question is, what are we doing to develop, right? And that's where we come in as Visitech. So today our focus is on AI and cybersecurity. Now I know we can get tired of AI, right? Because since morning we've been talking about AI. You even end up dreaming about AI, right? So the thing is that most people are talking about AI, but when I looked at it, I found that a lot of people, especially in Zambia, or maybe we can say Africa, most people don't understand what is really AI and what's really going on in the world of AI. So today, my goal is I want to make sure that the moment you walk out of this room, you really understand what AI is, and you're able to adopt it, apply it in your company, build your own models, and actually understand the cybersecurity threats that comes with it and how you can protect yourself. That is the goal of this presentation. Now, before we do that, we need to understand some basic steps of what is known as the evolutions that have existed through time. We had the steam revolution, and we all understand this. This is the industrial revolution when we had the new industries that were now built. There was a machine mechanisms that were built, and this is same as what's happening right now. A lot of people in the morning are talking about, oh, our job is going to be replaced. But guess what? That's what happened even a few decades ago when industrial revolution came in. Because people are now asking, machines are going to take over our jobs. All these tractors, right? So that's what happened. That's what's happening now with AI. So we need to understand that our jobs are not going to be taken. We're just going to become better, and we have to find something new in our field that we have to do to adopt that technology that has been brought in. I'll give you an example of tractors. Of course, now we have tractors that are able to do all these irrigations and all stuff. But now we have adopted skills of driving those tractors, and we're still evolving, and we're still being able to work on all those stuff. Something with AI. Right now, we're in the fourth revolution of technology, right? Starting from 2016. AI started, actually, when we look at, we'll go on furthermore into the presentation, you realize that AI started a long time ago, but this is when we get to hear about it, because Africa, we are always behind. And we're not talking about months, we're talking about years. And we'll get to see that in a moment. Next slide. Next slide. You can just cancel that. Okay, busy. All right. Where can I start? So this is a scientist. His name is Frank. And this is in the 1957. 1957, we had a scientist called Frank. And this scientist managed to discover the first technology that we're using right now that we're calling artificial intelligence. What he wanted to do, next slide, what he wanted to do is to be able to actually compare images of a female and a male using artificial intelligence. But by then, he never had really understanding of how he could do that. So he developed a technology. Okay, I think my internet is a bit slow here. Let me just set up the phone a bit. Okay. Always struggling with internet in Zambia. So he built a mechanism known as perceptron. Perceptron is actually a mechanism that mimics neurons, right? So basically, the way our neurons work in the brain, they had to mimic those. And the way to mimic that, next slide, is being able to actually introduce this perceptron in a kind of way where they're introducing, they're using what is known as a matrix of numbers. So basically, it's more like the way neurons function. You have to have two numbers, and these two numbers, these are called inputs. And once these inputs are entered, they're being processed by that particular neuron, and once it understands, it gives an output. So these were the two images that Frank was trying to compare, of a female and a male. Next slide. By doing that, the machine by then did manage to actually compare these images. It wasn't accurate because it was using one layer of artificial neural network. Now, later on, next slide please. Later on, it should be in the 1980s, we had this scientist called Geoffrey Hinton. He actually came up with multiple layers of neuron. So these were able to actually configure the inputs that were taken in as an image, configure an input that was taken in as numbers. Next slide. And then now being able to actually process them. And this illustrates the number of neurons that are in each and every layer. So basically the way it works, next slide. The way it works, what it does is, Franken was only using one layer of neuron, which is an input, and then it gives an output. But what Geoffrey managed to do, he managed to add multiple layers of neuron, which simply means each and every layer was able to get a particular image or a particular content that is given, then later on give an output. So what we mean by this, next slide. This is, next slide again. So this is a good example that I can explain. If you look at this image, images consist of pixels. For those who are in IT, I'm sure I understand pixels. So each and every pixel has got a certain type of graphic. Now, what AI does is, instead of looking at the whole image, it looks at each and every pixel, then translate and understand that pixel on its own. So that's what we're talking about, multiple layers of neural networks. And this is what has managed to reach us to where we are today, where we're able to configure each and every neuron to understand one basic part of the data input that is entered. So, like right now, you do give data to ChatGPT. ChatGPT doesn't look at it as the whole paragraph that you've given it. It looks at each and every letter, what type of language are you using. It looks at all these simple components, and these are the multiple layers that we're talking about. Next. So this is a good example where it was given a number which is 8, and it was able to get each and every pixel and understand what number it is, depending on the neural networks that are there. Next. So now we see now coming into the age of, I think this should be the late 1980s, where they started now being able to recognize finger images, because now we have multiple layers of neuron. And now they started having now being able to recognize video, right? So video is able to be inputted, and they're able to recognize video as well. Next. Then later on, they developed that. I think in the 1957, they were able to develop a technology that is able to recognize numbers after doing, of course, the multiple layer of neurons. So this, I'm sure some of you have used apps where you have to scan a number at talk time, and it actually realizes that number, then it dials the talk time for you. So this is the technology that they're using. It's an old technology. It's not something new, and we call it innovation in Zambia, which is not. So now we come back. Should be in the late 90s, where we had our first AI model that was actually created, called Deep Blue. Deep Blue was the first AI model that managed to compete with the best chess player, right? So Kasparov was beaten by this AI, and that's when the beginning of generative AI started. Now we have the internet. So all this time when they were generating all this stuff, the technology was slow because we didn't have the internet. Imagine just having a computer, a Macintosh, that is an old Macintosh, but we didn't have the computer that we have today, the network cables that we have, the routers that we have, there was no internet. This was the first Google, I would say, that was there, where everybody could be able to search and find data and all those stuff. Next. Now after that, now companies have adopted. We've got companies like Microsoft, Google, Meta. All these companies now have data centers. And this is what they're talking about data protection and all those stuff. Talking about having our own data centers which we're able to host our own data. But we can only do that if we have proper infrastructures. And this is what was discussed in the morning. So all these companies were able to evolve because of being able to access these technologies very quickly and being able to catch up with the evolution. But for us, it has been really quite difficult to even catch up with these technologies. So now, coming to GPT, which has been the talk of the whole year. I don't know if it's 2 years now. GPT was given to the world, almost like 5.3 billion people were using it, without even telling them, without giving them a proper understanding what GPT is, no instructions, everybody was given GPT. To me, this is more like giving a grenade to a baby and tell the baby, play with this grenade. You know that it's going to burst, right? And the baby is going to die. And that's what's going to happen. And it already happened. We already saw that. There's a lot of danger that you haven't been told that AI has done, and we'll look at that in a moment. So they managed to release this model that is very dangerous, and nobody was told that it's dangerous. There was no rules that were put, no instructions, and everyone was given, play around with it. We'll get back to that. And we all trusted it. That's the funny part. We all trusted this AI model that it's going to give us the data, it's going to give us the right information because it's a computer. So we'll get into that in a moment. So this is the question I asked GPT. I asked, do you have bias? Have you seen the answer that it gave me? All of you can go to your GPT model right now, type, do you have bias? You see what it will give you, the same thing that it gave me, right? As an AI model, I strive to be a neutral and objective, however biases can be presented in my responses for several reasons, and those are the reasons. Biases are there, but we don't realize it. We just use these AI models not knowing that they exist with biases. We are told that they have the right information, right? We don't understand this stuff. Next slide. Let's take another question. Who checks the data you learn from? You see the question, the answer that you gave me. Who checks the data that you learn from? Because this model has been designed, but it has to learn. It's a baby. It's a baby. This model has been designed as a baby, and that's the whole essence of generative AI. What we call generative interpreted transformers. They're like babies. When a baby is born, they don't know anything. You have to teach them. This is how you milk. Of course, by default, the baby knows how to milk, but you have to still teach them a couple of things, like this is how you walk, this is how you stand, and this is how these models work. You have to teach them. So the question is, this data that they're using to teach this model, who is verifying this data? And who is checking the data if it's true or not? That's the question that we need to ask. And that was the response from it, right? Next question. Next slide. So the other question I asked it, do you ever lie? And that's the answer it gave me. Do you ever lie? Now, this has been fixed. If you were in 2023 and you asked this, you'd have gotten a different answer, I assure you that. Because they realized that the model had a lot of difficulties and a lot of problems. So we need to have conversations with these AI models. We need to understand what's really going on. These are the questions we don't ask. We just ask about, oh, here's my report work. Can you please do this for me? Here's my this. No, talk to the model. Ask it questions. It's going to give you the answers. Next slide. So this is the video.
Hey Mom, hey Dad, it's me, Ella. Well, a digital version of me, just a bit older. Amazing what technology can do these days, isn't it? All you need are a couple of pictures, like the ones you share on social media, where they can be taken and used by everybody. I know for you these pictures are just memories, but for others, destroyed, Dad. Or my voice copied to scam you, Mom. I'm in trouble. I need you to send me money, please. I don't want to become a meme, humiliated by everyone at school.
Kill yourself, you fucking loser.
And I certainly don't want this. What you share online is like a digital footprint that will follow me around for the rest of my life. I'm telling you this because I know you love me and would never do anything to harm me. So please, Mom, please, Dad, protect my virtual privacy.
What do we learn here? What is the lesson? Every image we share online, TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, all those images that we are sharing, they can be used later on in the future with the technology advances to do a lot of things. Your child is born, you're busy taking pictures, uploading them online. All those stuff that you're doing, they are going to actually hinder you later in the future. And technology is catching up. There's other videos that I would have showed you, I'll share them later on, where I managed to mimic, who is this, Morgan Freeman, they managed to mimic Trump talking about me. And they don't even know me. But that is what is known as deepfakes. Right now, I can go to Madame here, capture her, 360, and I can create a model of her that looks exactly like her, and she's speaking something that she'll never speak about. I'm able to do that right now. And we have the technology there that is able to do that. So we need to be mindful as we are sharing images. We need to be mindful of the data that we share around. Technology is advancing. Later on, we're talking about right now voting with fingerprints. People will be able to do all those stuff, mimic your images, they look original, and they'll be able to vote. Even fingerprints now, people are able to mimic that. If I can get your fingerprint, I get it. I'm able to print a 3D model of a skin, and I'm able to wear it as your fingerprint. Very possible. So everything that we share, everything that we do, we need to be really mindful. Next slide, please. So here now we come to the technical side, the cybersecurity side, right? So we're not going to take into the, we're going to enter now into the cybersecurity world. What you see here in the cybersecurity world, this is what we have, what is known as hard face. Hard face is where we see all these models that you guys are enjoying and all those stuff. For us, we get the code. So right now, when you go to hard face, for those who are technical, those who are software engineers, go and visit this site, you find all the models. Those ones I was talking about in the morning, the 700,000 models that have been created, you find them on this site, and you'll be able to download them locally on your computer and utilize them. We'll look at that later. Next slide, please. So when you go on this website, you'll be able to see different types of models. This is the number that I was talking about. This was the update yesterday, and the number kept increasing each and every day. So now we have 772,000 models right now as we are speaking. And these models do different things: speech, image, deepfakes, all those stuff. Next slide. So now we're going to look at an interesting model from Meta, right? An LLM, large language model. The whole conversation that we've been having about AI, now we're going deep into it. Now, all these models that we are talking about, so this is how they work. If we're going to train a baby, we'll need, so let's imagine a model as a baby. If we're going to train this baby, we need GPUs, right? For those who don't know GPUs, these are graphical these are graphical cards that are used to actually play games. For those who play games, you need GPUs for you to be able to learn, to run a better game. So you need GPUs to train these models, right? For them to do processing and all those stuff. Right now, they're using about 600 GPUs, and this for them to train this Llama AI that they're using, it took them about 1.5 million GPU hours. So the hours it took them to train this model, to give it data, to tell it this is how people interact, this is what people do, this is the language, all those stuff. This is the time that it took. And it costed them about 20 million. Costed Meta 20 million to develop this model. And they give it free to a guy like me, or anybody out there. Right? Now, OpenAI has refused to do that. Even though it's called open, which is Elon Musk is trying to fight with these people. How can you call something open if it's not open? Because they don't have their code released, they don't want to release their code. But what Meta has done has released their code. We have the Llama 3, it's already out, we're using it locally, and also Llama 2, so these are open, we're able to get the code. If you look at here, it says training data. The data that was trained is about 15 trillion tokens of data. So this is all the data in the internet, right? These are the tokens that they used. So the data here, it says data freshness. Maybe came up with a new word that sounds cool, data freshness. So the data freshness is March 2023, right? So this is, I'll give example like the latest date when they updated this data, getting it from the internet. Next slide, please. So now, coming to the cybersecurity part. A hacker can go on this site called Hackface and actually get a similar model. But the difference is that, I don't know if you can see it, it says uncensored. It says uncensored. Uncensored simply means it doesn't have those rules that you guys have where, oh, I want to make a bomb and GPT will tell you, no, I'm an AI, I can't do that for you. I'm told not to do that for you. But if I download this, I tell it, I want to make a bomb, it will give you all the chemical structures and everything, and I'll be able to make the actual bomb. It will help me in each and every step. So this is uncensored AI, and I'm able to get it right now. In fact, it's on my laptop. Next. So this is me, that was yesterday. I was supposed to do this presentation yesterday. I was testing this in the morning. So I downloaded the model on my computer using Ubuntu and all those stuff. So this is my computer, and after running it, Llama, as you can see, a Llama run, Llama 2, I was using Llama 2 uncensored. Can you write me a polyphemic self-encrypted virus? For those who don't know polyphemic encrypted virus, this is a virus that is able to duplicate itself and change its existence as the antivirus detects it. So I'll give an example, like let's imagine at the door there, I'm not supposed to enter this room. And when I go up the door, I find the guard, and I'm able to change my identity to somebody who is inside. Oh, I'm just from the bathroom. And the guy will be like, oh, sure, cool. And when I enter here, I can change back to another face, change to different people. That's what this virus is able to do. That's the polyphemic self-encrypting virus. I told you to create that. Next page. And guess what? It created for me a simple one, actually a better one, that is able to do even a better work. So you see the danger of this AI. And it's not only me. We have thousands of people in the cybersecurity industry doing this, right? Hackers are doing this right now as we are speaking. They're downloading these models and coming up with better viruses, better things to hack your ATMs, all those stuffs. All these stuffs, they're using AI models which are being released. The grenade that I was talking about, given to a child. Yes. So now, talking about our data. How best can we secure our data? How best can we protect ourselves from these malwares that are being created by all these hackers? That's the reason why I'm here as a cybersecurity expert, to tell you how best you're going to help yourself, your company, and all these people to protect themselves from these malwares and this new coming technology of AI. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. These are the solutions that we are offering right now as BusyTech. Right now, as BusyTech, we have come up with a device. This device is able to scan viruses using this AI model. We're able to get an AI model and pre-train it using the data that we have to be able to scan these viruses that are being created. We also have live detection. Live detection is when you get attacked right now, it's able to defend you as, imagine of each having a cybersecurity engineer next to you. The same thing they say using ChatGPT is like having an Einstein teacher next to you. It's the same thing that we have done. Being able to train a model as a cybersecurity engineer, but with more experience and more knowledge, and being able to learn right there and then on the live session when you're being hacked. It's able to actually protect you. The other thing that we have is P2P, P2P verification. Right now we've got a lot of apps that have been created, but none of you can actually verify that private and policy that they give you, right? Most of you are just given that private and policy and you say, oh, allow. But you don't know what like TikTok, when you're downloading TikTok and installing it, to give you private and policy, but none of you have read. How many of you have read the private and policy of TikTok? That they're able to get your data and all those stuff? Nobody. So with our app, with our application, with our device, we're able to copy that, put it in, and it gives you a summarized version of what they're able to do with your data. And there you can decide either to allow them or not. And then the other thing is blockchain cloud services. We're able to offer blockchain cloud services, which will come back and talk about this. And then there's also hardware companion, which is what I was talking about. Next page, please. This is a device that we have innovated as Visited. We're calling it Offset. Offset is a device that is going to revolutionize the future of technology in Africa and all over the world. This device is going to be released in December. And this device will have all those features that I was talking about. It will be able to do data encryption, it will have a local AI, you're able to give it your data, it doesn't have to connect to the network, and it will be able to work locally on your computer with your own data. And this device will be able to be used in also corporations and companies. So you don't have to, you keep your data private and you still be able to utilize these AI models that are actually safe. Next page. So now, these are the questions that I want you to capture and ask anybody who is telling you that they have an AI model and they have they've developed their own model, they are working with new AI technologies. Whenever you go to any conference, ask them these questions, it will make them sweat. Do you need AI to resolve your problem? That's the first question you need to ask them. Do you need AI to resolve the problem? Why? So I can go through all these, but I don't have enough time. Next page. These are the last ones that are very critical that you need to ask them. Where is it stored? The AI model, where is it being stored? And we're talking about where our data center is stored. In fact, I talked about being able to talk with Facebook, and they'll be able to have their data centers here and being able to store data. That is okay. But if they're going to have the data centers here in Africa, any part of Africa, and they're still able to access, it's almost will just give them free land to host their data servers. So we need to have certain rules for them to be able to not get some of the stuff that this data has, the data that we have. So it's not just about having a room with data servers. No, it's about having rules. Is the data being able to collect it? Let's not just think about, oh, we need to have data servers. The question is, who's accessing the data? So we can give people free land, you can give Facebook free land in Africa to do these data servers, and they will clap and we say, oh, let's shake hands, let's do that, because they want space, right? But they'll still be able to access the data. So we have to be mindful of that. Next page, please. As my role model says, the world has happened to us. As Africans, we need to happen to the world, right? It's like everybody received an email. Everybody received an email that Africa is going to be one of the best continents later in the future with all the resources that are needed. But guess who didn't receive the email? Africans. We didn't receive the memo. We didn't receive the email. Chinese know that. Americans know. Everybody knows that Africa has the resources, has brilliant people. But nobody in Africa knows about that. We don't believe in ourselves. We have the knowledge, we have the capacity to do all this stuff better than them. Elon Musk came from South Africa. Of course, he's a white guy, but he came from South Africa. And right now, he's one of the richest men, right? He went in America, of course, because of the resources. But if we're able to, the government, if it's able to provide the resources, we can have the next Elon Musk here in Africa. 100%, I assure you that. Next. This is our company website. You can just come and go to our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elisha, for that eye-opening presentation. I really hope we got to learn one or two things. I can see people are looking like, oh, this